So yes, I'm going to do a presentation about learning in public and kind of give you guys the little background on how I broke into tech and then how I just got my new job by learning in public again. So for me, the cold applying did not work. And so I started posting on LinkedIn during my boot camp. I actually started the week before I started my boot camp. I started posting every day on LinkedIn. And by the end of my boot camp, I ended up having 3 offers. And this was in January of last year. So market was not super great then either. And I thought maybe it was a fluke. So I kind of felt like when I decided to start posting again back in December, I was curious what would happen. And it turns out that about at the 3-month point of my trying to break into tech and then trying to move jobs, both of those times are when I started getting recruiters reaching out to me to interview. So this is kind of my thoughts on how to get noticed without applying, because when I apply, I get rejected every single time. So, all right. My first thought is to kind of grow your network. Posting consistently is very important. So I feel like when I talk to people about building in public, they get super excited for like a few days and they start posting. And then like when the results aren't immediate, they kind of fall off. So I post daily, or at least I did when I was trying to break into tech. And again, it took about 3 months before of posting daily to start getting recruiters and hiring managers to reach out. I also think it's important when you're growing your network to not just be like posting, but also talking to people online and building relationships, but focus on building the relationship with like, what can you learn from talking to people on LinkedIn who are also in tech, whether they're trying to break into tech or already in tech, and then also trying to like focus on like the value that you can bring to your network as well, because you guys can bring a lot of network even if you're not working right now. There's things that you know and skills that you have that you can share, and then just being supportive of other people online too is really helpful. Do you guys know anyone in real life that codes? Because I don't. Like, you guys are my coding community. Do you guys have friends in real life that code too, or no?
Can I sorry to interrupt? So
Yeah,
I
you
do
can.
have a few friends. I live in Boston, if anybody doesn't know, but I do have a few friends, and there's something called, I believe it's cafe coding, something like that. It's on a meetup group, and they have like they have a lot of events, and then they do meetups every other month with depending on the state where you are. So I probably could share this link with everyone on the chat, but
Oh, that sounds
I
great.
actually end up meeting like more folks, and some of them they were working for a couple companies and they got laid off, and they continue to grow their network, and they're also looking for a job as well. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, post it in the Slack channel too if you're in there, so that way the link stays after we're gone. Ooh,
Yeah.
Sandy, your spouse, what is it like being married to someone who also codes? Because my husband is very unimpressed with my coding, because he doesn't know how to code. So he's like, wow, that's a button. Very cool, Callie. But like, is your spouse impressed?
Yeah, I mean, he kind of just encouraged me to do project, and then he actually helped me to searching for boot camp.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you guys code together? Do you like work on a project together?
We plan to do it, but not yet because he's very busy on his work for now.
That's fair. Yeah, my husband actually, he's been like floating. He's like, so I think I have a coding with Callie MVP that I want, because he's thinking about starting a business. So we'll see if my husband ends up being one of our future employers. So
Sure.
yeah, so build the relationships. I feel like there's like a lot of people out there that are just like spamming DMs, and I think like if that works, that's great. But I think commenting for me has been a great way to meet people and develop relationships and like kind of support people who are building projects online and in their job search, and kind of like keep up to date there too. So just some thoughts. All right, portfolio projects. So I feel like one of the things that I see is people graduate boot camp and then they feel like, okay, I'm done and it's time to just apply. But if you think about it, so if you think about like when you graduate your boot camp, everybody's like here. So if you're all applying and no one's getting hired, then like you're not at the level that you need to be at. You need to like get higher. So the time that you're spending applying, I feel like is not necessarily wasted time if it works out, but like keep kind of check on like the data. Is it working? Are you getting interviews? If you are, okay, then you have a good formula, keep going. But if not, you need to start pivoting. So for me, I code daily, at work, obviously, but I code daily, like in my personal life too. And I think it helps me to kind of stay accountable if it's an everyday thing. I make the rule that I have to do a commit no matter what, but the commit can be like super small. It can be, oh, I found a bug, so I'm just going to quickly edit the bug. I'm going to refactor something. I'm going to add one line of code. I'm going to make something responsive. Some days I code for hours. Some days I just do a line. But like if you have a project and you kind of are saying like every day I'm going to open up this project, I'm going to take a look at my code and make it better. That kind of keeps you going. So yeah, don't copy code that you don't understand. I think it's important to take a deep look into everything that you're coding. And then I also think it's important to start building things from scratch. And then once you figure out, and Christine, you did a great job of this for your MVP. And I think you also with like doing the CSS yourself. And then you also got to a point where you're like, all right, maybe it's time to use a components library, right? But I think it's super useful that you did the CSS yourself. You understood how to do everything. And then once you got to the point where you're like, okay, I could style this all on my own, but now it's just a time save to do something else. But I think a lot of people start adding a bunch of libraries and frameworks in without understanding the fundamentals. And I think that kind of can make it hard to land a job because it's hard to interview when you don't fully understand what you're coding. The next thing that I see is people jumping around on, oh, you're starting on Tailwind now? Nice. Okay. I also, Christine, I was just like you. I, for the longest time, was like, no, I'm not using any sort of components library. I will not do that. And now that I use Chakra UI, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I ever just use CSS? Hey, James. So yeah, so the next thing too is building MVPs, okay? Build in-depth projects. Don't just build something in 2 days and then move on and then build another something in 2 days and then move on. You want to build something with features. You want to build something that's secure. You want it to work. You want it to be deployed and reliable. And like the way that you're going to learn is to really challenge yourself to build something that you would build for a company. It doesn't matter what you build, but like pick one thing and keep building on it. Because if you just build a simple CRUD application and then move on to another simple CRUD application, you're not really challenging yourself to learn anything new. I also think it helps if you're posting these projects because people get invested in whatever you're building. So if you take the time to keep adding to it, then like people will be watching your journey and be more kind of impressed in what's going on. But yeah, this is a good thing too. Like you can add tests to your project, so that will get you up to speed on testing, deploying your project. You can kind of, there's always incremental ways to continue to learn in the DevOps world. You can get something up and running quickly, and then you can kind of iterate on it and automate it. There's always something, even with a simple MVP, that you can keep learning on. All right. So I kind of already talked about this a little bit, but you just really need to like prioritize your time and thinking of where you're at. So it's a long-term game here that we're all playing to break into this world and keep learning and keep going. Once you get the job, the game doesn't end either. So like, I mean, I think I probably spent 20 hours this week scouring through documentation and watching YouTube videos and learning in order to get up to speed at work. So like all of that time though, it just keeps building on my skills. So like kind of continue to do a check-in and reflect on how you've spent your time. A lot of you too are working full time while you're trying to break into tech. So there's not that much time left in the day. So think about like, what is the best way to get my name out there and to continue my learning? If you have an hour a day, don't spend that hour a day cold applying on LinkedIn. That's not going to help your skills at all. Spend that hour a day coding, maybe spend 45 minutes coding and spend 15 minutes crafting a post, reflecting on what you learned in your coding and posting it online, right? Because when you apply, I mean, how many of those jobs is your resume just getting automatically weeded out by a computer, right? How many times are people just scanning over your resumes and not clicking on any links, right? So like you could apply to 100 jobs and like how many people out of that 100 are really going to see your work? Whereas you could make one post on LinkedIn and you could have 100 people see your work. Yep. Gloria, what's up?
Yeah, I had a question about posting every day. Like sometimes I tried posting for a little while, and then I was struggling with after a point I wouldn't get at a very good stopping point. Like things would be broken and things like that. So like how did you always continue until things were working, or is it okay to stop when you only have an hour and it's still not quite in the perfect state that you would like it to be?
I actually think keeping in mind that you're gonna have to post the next day helps me to really like put my product hat on and think, what can I build in this amount of time so I can make a post about it tomorrow? Also, things being broken is a great thing to code about or to post about too. Like, what broke it? What were you trying to do? What's the roadblock on? Did you debug? Like, did you break it? Did you have enough time to go and look at and try to find where the issue was? If so, do a screen recording of you adding a console log, figuring out where it's broken, showing it, and then writing a little summary of, oops, broke my application last night. I figured out this is where it's at. Do you not have time to debug? Okay, so be like, oops, I broke my thing last night. Here's my error message. Has anyone seen this before? I had a memory leak the other week, which Christine helped me out with a lot. And I posted about it like, hey, I have a memory leak. Anybody have any tools? And a lot of people reached out with tools that then I was able to go and learn more about memory leaks. So I don't think you just need to post like the successes. I think you can kind of post it all. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps a lot because
Yeah.
I was starting to get a little frustrated. It's like, oh my gosh, what can I achieve, in my 1 hour and also have time to post about it without it like me being up till like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would definitely keep like a good balance so you're not burning out. So keep it to the hour a day if that's what you have. But I would too, like, you can post about like your planning, right? You could post about the tool that you could learn. You could post like about like teaching someone something, right? So like I posted a YouTube video yesterday about a Go API. I'm learning Go this week. You don't need to like be an expert on something in order to learn something and then reflect on it and summarize it, right? So even if you just read a Medium article, you could post it and be like, hey, this was a great Medium article I learned. I thought it worked this way. It turns out it works this way. Like, how do you guys use this tool? And kind of just carry on like that. So there's a lot of different things other than just like, I built this feature, and so on.
Super, thanks. That helps a lot.
Yeah. Right. So then the next thing, and this is like a personal preference, I suppose. I see a lot of people have found out, I don't know, that they can like go viral maybe by posting a complaining post on LinkedIn. But I think the temporary numbers ultimately aren't worth the detriment to your personal brand. So you want to think through what the message is of the posts that you're sending. Okay. So to me, if you're posting a bug, that tells me that you're a real developer because real developers hit bugs all the time. if you post a bug and then a few days later you show me you got through the bug, that's like, wow, they're committed. They know how to research. This is, and like I can look, see all those things. So I don't think it's bad to your brand to learn in public and show that you don't know everything. What I do think is bad for your brand is to post about how no one will hire you. Because if I'm looking to hire a developer and you apply to my job, and then I go to your profile and the only thing that you posted about in the last 3 months is that like you've applied to 1,000 jobs and no one has hired you, I'm going to think, well, why does no one else want to hire this person? I don't want to hire this person either. So personal opinion, take it or leave it, but I would just advise to think through the types of messages and the type of branding that you want to put out there. The next thing that I see a lot too is people like will give up prematurely. So it's the like, oh yeah, I'll post 2 times. I only got a few likes, so I'm out. Both jobs that I've gotten from posting online and I got a third offer. All 3 of those opportunities, the person who like the job never liked or commented on my post. They just saw these posts and were watching in the background and then had a recruiter reach out to me at a certain point. So if you're not getting a lot of reactions, that doesn't necessarily mean that people aren't watching and keeping track of what's going on and like seeing where your project's going to go. And also, if you're getting a lot of reactions, that doesn't necessarily mean that like everyone who's reacting is also going to have a job for you. What my thought is about it being a long game is that like, say you have a hiring manager who sees your posts, right? And they're like, wow, this would be a really great junior developer that I would work with. Maybe they don't have a job now, but if they have a job 3 months from now, and they see another one of your posts, then they're going to think, oh my gosh, that's what you're right. I've seen all of their projects. I love how they do that. We're building the same tech stack. I'm going to tell a recruiter to reach out to them. So it's a long game and you don't want to give up prematurely just because you're not seeing like an instant viral hit overnight. That being said, you also do want to make decisions based on the data. So make a decision, make a type of post, and then kind of iterate just like you would when you're developing software based on the data that comes back. So if you notice, wow, I got 3 people reached out to me and asked me questions about this application I'm building when I did this type of post. No one reacted or looked at it on this type of post. Edit your post from there and kind of go with that. For me, I found that doing screen recordings of features and keeping those about a minute long typically are my like best performing posts. Polls I feel like are really good. I would think like you have to have a reason behind what your poll is and stuff like that, but let the data drive it, and also let the data drive like things like cold applying too. So like if you are doing something over and over and it's not successful, at some point you need to pivot whatever job search thing that you're doing. So don't give up too quickly, but also know, when to kind of change things up. Yep, Gloria, go ahead.
Yeah, I was curious, were you recording everything that you were like coding and then you would go and edit and make like you said, a small 1 minute kind of your
Oh,
like
no.
no.
Now I record when I code a lot just because I'm like trying to like be helpful with my thought process. But when I was like first in boot camp and trying to do, I would say like, okay, today I'm going to build this feature. And then I would build it. And then I would just go and do like, I have a Mac. So I do the magnifying glass and then I type in screenshot. And then I would just record the section of my thing. I'd click around real quick, showing the feature work that I did or showing the bug that I did. And then the next morning I would upload it to LinkedIn with like a little description of yesterday I built this feature, and now people can do this. And then I would work on the next thing the next day.
Oh, okay.
Does that make
Great.
sense? But yeah, I never
Yeah.
recorded myself like talking through code and something like that at that time.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, okay, great.
It depends on what you want to show. I mean, I think if you want to get in the ed tech space, or like you want to kind of like teach people how to code or something like that would be one thing. But yeah, I don't think you need to necessarily like record yourself coding because that does sound like a lot.
Okay, great. Yeah, I thought that would be like, oh, how do you post about that? Okay, great.
Things on the back end, a lot of people don't think you can post on that, but like you could do a screenshot of a postman request. You could do a screenshot of like a log coming in. You could do your test suite running. You could just take a picture of your VS Code. You could take a picture of a tool you used. You could take a picture of like data getting sent to the front end to show that you connected everything. But yeah, I really like including pictures and videos in my posts because I think it kind of helps tell the story versus just a block of text. I won't stop when I'm scrolling through. All right. So my tips for getting started is just pick a project and then start building the project and then start posting about the project that you're building and then just keep going. So post about what you learned, what you struggled with, what you accomplished, what broke, how you debugged it, then how you fixed it once you figured out what the problem is, what resources you learned, anything around the world of coding is something that you can post about as long as it fits with what the brand you want to build for the companies to hire you for. And that is my presentation. My shameless plug is that if you need help deciding what to build or what to build in public, or you need any sort of accountability, that's where Coding with Callie can come in. So the project planning tool workshop is live. It's a self-paced workshop. If you just need something to build and post about, you can use it. And then the deploy in public challenge just started, which Gloria, I saw you signed up, very excited. We are going to be doing a challenge where it's 10 weeks long. You'll deploy 4 different applications over the 10 weeks. And the challenge part of it is you have to post on LinkedIn at least once a week about what you're deploying. And those who successfully complete the workshop and post all 10 posts will get to work for Coding with Callie. I'm saving 70% of the registration fees for the Deploy in Public workshop to go towards paying people who complete the workshop for work on the Coding with Callie website or technical writing and stuff like that. Yep, go for it.
Yeah, I was curious, like how many hours do you think we're gonna need a week to complete, like to stay on track with what you're doing?
Oof, this is hard because in my head with the project planning, the to-do list one, I was like, this is about 2 to 5 hours a week. And then we did it and I was like, this is a lot more intense than I thought I was telling people to do. So I guess I'll throw it back. What are you guys looking for in terms of like how much you would want to do per week? Because I'm planning it right now so I can try to edit it to be around that.
Yeah, I was thinking like 2 to 5 would be, if you could code 1 hour a day on it, it seems like that would be pretty reasonable. More than that, it seems like then you start struggling uh, with that. It seems like if you have extra time, you can probably add on to it versus, being short on time and not completing it would be sad.
Okay, so what would you think in terms of if it's 5 hours, let's say 5 hours a week in terms of like that's how much work you guys would be doing. How long should the solution videos of me doing it be for that week? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it seems to me like it always takes me at least double the time that the video is doing, because then you have to stop and pause and all
Yeah.
that. At least that, at least it shouldn't
Okay, so
be.
I'll aim for about 2 hours worth of me coding a week for the workshop to go. And that's helpful because the world of DevOps is like crazy large and I'm having a very difficult time being like, well, how many tools should I include and what should what should the requirements be? So that is actually super helpful. So thank you for asking that question. So does that sound good to everybody who's interested in the workshop? About 2 hours of solution videos a week for the 10 weeks, equating to about 5 hours a week worth of work.
I think that sounds good.
Yay.